Political and social crisis. Where are the Labour Party and Britain headed? The United Kingdom is no stranger to political turmoil, but recent events have pushed the nation into a boiling cauldron of unrest that may reshape its very future. The Labour Party, once seen as the beacon of hope that could guide the UK through a post-Brexit, post-pandemic world, is now teetering on the brink of collapse. Internal chaos, public outrage, and the increasingly tenuous leadership of Keir Starmer are fueling the flames of political controversy, and the question on everyone's mind is, can the Labour Party survive, or is Britain on the verge of an even greater crisis? Senior officials within the party are abandoning ship, citing Starmer's authoritarian style of governance and policy missteps as reasons for their departure. Meanwhile, disillusioned MPs are breaking ranks and taking their criticisms to the airwaves, signalling the beginning of what may be a catastrophic unravelling of the Labour Party's unity. All of this has set the stage for a showdown between Starmer's leadership and a growing wave of public and political dissent. The wave of criticism begins. It was only a matter of time before a senior Labour figure broke the unspoken code of loyalty and openly rebelled. Veteran MP Graham Stringer took the plunge when he launched a stinging critique of the government's new winter fuel allowance policy, calling it a catastrophic miscalculation and insultingly naive. Starmer's team defended the policy, stating it was necessary to avert a broader financial collapse, but Stringer wasn't buying it. He slammed the government's rationale, noting that the policy had zero measurable impact on the financial markets, but had devastated pensioners reliant on the subsidy to survive the harsh British winters. The backlash was swift, and Stringer's comments became a lightning rod for others within the party who had been privately harbouring doubts. Discontent has festered for months, and with Stringer's public attack, the dam has broken. MP after MP has begun voicing concerns, with some even hinting that a leadership challenge could be on the horizon. Are we on the verge of a pensioner revolt? The government's decision to slash the number of pensioners eligible for the winter fuel allowance has ignited a social firestorm. Across the country, some 11 million elderly Britons have suddenly found themselves facing the prospect of a cold and potentially life-threatening winter without the financial aid they had relied on. Social media exploded with outrage as stories of pensioners having to choose between heating their homes and feeding themselves became all too common. One Scottish couple, Peter and Florence Fanning, has taken matters into their own hands, filing a lawsuit against the government, accusing it of violating equality laws by failing to assess the policy's impact on vulnerable communities. The case has the potential to halt the policy in its tracks, at least temporarily, and may force the government to rethink its approach. But it's not just a legal battle, it's a moral one. The Fannings case has galvanized public support, and the elderly population, traditionally a bedrock of political stability, is starting to show signs of rebellion. If the lawsuit succeeds, it could buy time for pensioners to receive the critical £200 to £300 winter subsidies they desperately need. But the damage may already be done. Public trust in the government's ability to care for its most vulnerable is eroding by the day. Immigration, crime, and the ECHR, a national meltdown. While the country grapples with domestic issues, another controversial subject has flared up, adding fuel to the political fire. Albanian immigrant Adit Bage, after being deported for theft, shocked the nation by returning to the UK illegally to reunite with his Lithuanian girlfriend. The story became a symbol of the growing immigration crisis when Bage invoked Article 8 of the European Convention on Human Rights (ECHR), citing his right to a family life, and successfully halted his second deportation after getting married and having children. The public's reaction was visceral. Bage's case became a focal point for frustrations over what many see as a broken immigration system. Former Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick did not hold back, lambasting the ECHR as a legal shield for criminals. claiming that it was being manipulated by foreign offenders to evade justice. His comments stirred a hornet's nest, with some demanding that the UK withdraw from the ECHR altogether, an action that could set off a legal and diplomatic earthquake, not seen since the Brexit vote. Jenrick's words have thrown gasoline on an already smouldering debate about national sovereignty, public safety, and human rights. While critics argue that leaving the ECHR would isolate the UK and violate international norms, supporters claim that drastic measures are needed to regain control over the nation's borders. The issue is quickly morphing into a referendum on Britain's post-Brexit identity. Will it remain part of Europe's legal framework or strike out on its own? Consequences be damned. The collapse of British pub culture. Amid the political and social chaos, one of Britain's most cherished cultural institutions, the pub, is also under threat. In 2023, the Conservative government implemented a 10.1% tax hike on spirits, and the fallout has been nothing short of catastrophic for the UK's pub industry. Thousands of pubs are teetering on the edge of bankruptcy, and the numbers continue to rise. The pub, long considered a pillar of British life, could be nearing extinction. Labour's Rachel Reeves has been thrust into the spotlight as the person who could save the industry. Reeves is facing enormous pressure to reverse the tax hike, with pub owners, brewers and distillers warning that without immediate action, up to 9,000 pubs could vanish within a year. Letters of protest have flooded her office, and rallies are being planned in towns across the UK to draw attention to the plight of local pubs. Analysts are sounding the alarm, warning that the collapse of Britain's pub industry would not only devastate local economies, but also erode a key part of the country's cultural fabric. Reeves now finds herself caught between the rock of economic realities and the hard place of public expectation. If she fails to act, the consequences could be severe, not just for her political career, but for the survival of British pub culture itself. The social contract is shattering from pensioners to pub owners, immigrants to industrial workers. It seems that no segment of British society has been left untouched by the political chaos swirling around the Labour Party. The very social contract that has held the country together for decades is fraying at the edges, with each new policy or scandal pulling at the threads. Keir Starmer is walking a tightrope, trying to balance the demands of his party, the will of the people, and the unpredictable pressures of an increasingly hostile political landscape. His leadership is in peril, and many within Labour are beginning to question whether he has what it takes to lead the party and the country through this period of immense upheaval. What lies ahead? In the coming weeks and months, Britain is likely to face even greater political and social instability. The mounting challenges will require strong, decisive leadership and a clear vision for the future. But with the Labour Party splintering and public trust eroding, it's unclear whether anyone in power has the answers. The UK is on the cusp of a new era, one defined by internal divisions, policy missteps, and an ever-growing sense of uncertainty. The question now is not just whether the Labour Party can survive, but whether the country itself can withstand the storms that are coming.